For the only time this season, it is time to hop across the Atlantic and take a trip to Europe, as time trickles down to become a virtual champion of the international world of NASCAR stock car racing. This worldwide all-star battle takes place on another road course full of twists and turns as drivers from NASCAR Mexico, the Canadian NASCAR Pinty Series, and the NASCAR Drive for Diversity attempt to outduel the drivers of Euro NASCAR on their home pitch. Good evening and welcome to the semifinal round of iRacing's coverage of the 2022 D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series powered by Digital Motorsports, live from iRacing's virtual Circuit Zolder in Belgium. Alongside Kenneth Bueno, I am Devin Henry. Our producer today is Ryan Bauer, making all the magic happen with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, Kenneth, we have officially reached clutch time. Just 2 races to go in the series, and we reach our second road course of the year. Typically, this little short series, the little sprint races we have are typically road course heavy. This year we only have 2. And of course it was the Canadian taking home the win on Canadian soil at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Trajan Lapcevich, he will be definitely one of the contenders tonight. But first of all, you got to beat the Europeans who run here 2 times a year, Kenneth, in the real world.
Yeah, like you said, this is home pitch, home turf for these Euro NASCAR drivers. And last season in this eNASCAR International iRacing Series, when we visited this track, top 3 all locked out by Whelen Euro NASCAR Series talent. So safe to say there is a lot riding on all of those European drivers heading into tonight's race. But the biggest thing at focus, Devin, is that championship battle. Trajan Lapcevich with a 9-point lead over Victor Barrales Jr. It's been a fierce battle between the 2 drivers from the Pinty Series and from the Mexico Series. And tonight could be the most pivotal before our last race at Darlington in 1 week time. At a road course where anything can happen, we may see the biggest and baddest things come out to change the tide of that championship battle.
And let's take a look at how we've gotten to this point. We opened up the season at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, one of the 3 ovals that we're racing, although it's unlike the other 2. Victor Barrales Jr. took the win. He's held the championship lead up until last week. Trajan Lapcevich goes out and wins at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and puts on a tremendous showcase at Daytona as well. Couldn't take the win though. Newcomer Ryan Vargas and the American took home the victory when we raced on Sunday just over 1 week ago. We now enter Circuit Zolder, and for a lot of these Europeans, a lot of the Mexican drivers too, and even the Canadians, road courses are their bread and butter. Darlington next week is going to be something unlike anybody in this entire series has seen, maybe outside of Ryan Vargas. So this is potentially your last chance to really solidify where you are in the Sprint Series Championship.
Yeah, for sure. In this part of Zolder, this part of the championship, I mean, we've seen so many curveballs thrown at the field. We had Las Vegas, which had never been featured before in this eNASCAR International iRacing Series, and then we ended up at the Oval at Daytona, and how wild that race was, going all the way to the finish. And then Darlington, like you said, that very last race for the championship. Again, another oddball, another new challenge for most of the drivers in this field. So tonight, much like Canadian Tire, is the opportunity for them to maximize their points, do whatever they can. And as we take a look at this track in Belgium, Devin, it is a lot of fun to drive. And last season we saw just how good of a battle it provided between the drivers on track and the technicality of it. A lot of speed in that first sector, but a lot of chicanes in that second, going back to the start-finish line. And it's a very tough track to drive with these cars, but it's a lot of fun.
10 turns, 2.5-mile laps on this track that opened back in 1963 in the forest of Belgium. But take us through, what are we seeing tonight, Kenneth? And 30 laps is going to feel a lot longer than it actually is.
It is, and for the first time, I think, in this history, in this series, for season number 3, we will have strategy in the mix at a road course. We expected it to happen at Canadian Tire. It did not go down whatsoever, and it went pretty much opposite to our expectations. Tonight, though, at Zolder, we should see those pit stops under green flag action. We go just under 75 miles from Circuit Zolder, just over 120 kilometers. You do have unlimited tires in the pits, which is going to matter, Devin, because we've got a track temp of over 105 degrees, 108 to be exact. So tires are going to be at a premium once you get to that long run. 1 faster pair of fixed setups and 3 green, white, checkered attempts, of course, if we need them. We've only had to use them at the Oval at Daytona, and I don't believe we're going to be seeing any of those tonight from Zolder. We may see it, but who knows, and the jinx is still up and well, but we'll just have to find out. 30 laps, though, proper distance for strategy and for long run pace.
Time is running out. It's Trajan Lapcevich versus the world right now with the 9-point lead over Victor Barrales Jr. Jake Cosio only 1 point behind him. And time is running out for you too. If you have not entered this giveaway yet, it's time to go. Right here is going to be probably my favorite giveaway that I think I've seen from iRacing. This here is a digital motorsports NASCAR simulator outfitted with D-Box haptic technology. It comes with a playseat rig, racing seats and brackets, a Phonetic direct drive base, Phonetic NASCAR wheel, Phonetic V3 pedals, a Phonetic shifter, a floor stand mount, 49-inch curved Samsung television screen, and of course the D-Box haptic system, the best motion system on the market. No hydraulics, it's all electric motors. You can enter anytime between right now and the day after the championship, just over a week from now, December 21st. You can do that by going to www.d-box.com/eNASCAR/contest. Pick who you think is going to win this championship in 7 days from now in the 2022 eNASCAR International iRacing Series and sign up for that good old D-Box newsletter for your chance to win a digital motorsports NASCAR simulator outfitted with D-Box haptic technology. And of course, right now, if you are not on iRacing, if you need to renew, right now is the time to do it. 50% off of all new memberships to join iRacing and 25% off of all renewals and reactivations with the holiday sale. This is for all 1-year and 2-year subscriptions to iRacing, and you have a little bit of time. I think that you should probably go for it, though. This is a big discount. It ends on January 9th. Be sure to jump on this before it goes away. You're not going to see another one like it again for quite a while. Well, now it's time to get on to iRacing and on to the virtual Circuit Zolder, our lone trip to Europe. And boy, do the Europeans want to take advantage of this one. It is a European 1, 2, 3 in qualifying, including one of the best road course racers we have seen this year, Paul Jouffreau, knocking down a 96.433. He will start on pole alongside Ulysses Del Sol. In row number 2, Giorgio Maggi, the 24-year-old Swiss driver, will make up the 3rd position alongside him. How about Alex de Alba joining us, the Mexico Series driver, and one of the drivers who's finished the series in Mexico this past weekend. Traden Lapcevich, our winner at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and the Canadian Series driver will line up against another Mexico Series driver in 6th, Victor Morales Jr. They fight for the championship lead. Neo Lambert starts in P7, one of our Whelen European drivers, and of course the Pinty's Canadian Series driver JP Bergeron, who's ran well this year, starts in P8. Rounding out our top 10, Kenneth Apera, more of our Euro Series driver, Miguel Gomez, the Portuguese driver, and Gordon Barnes.
P11 is where you'll find Drive for Diversity talent Justin Campbell, who finished in the top 5 at Daytona just over a week ago. He starts from there. P12, you'll find Luli Del Castello in the number 24 machine. Into 13th and 14th. Row number 7, you'll find Frédéric Gavillon, the French driver, in the number 3 car. Ryan Vargas, your winner at Daytona, going to roll deep in the field, P14, if he wants to go 2 in a row, much like Alain Day did in last season's edition of this series. Final 2 drivers in our grid include the number 51 of Jake Cosio from the NASCAR Mexico Series and Gil Minster rounding out the rear of the field, P16 out of the Euro NASCAR camp.
It's kind of a home race for Gil, kind of not though. It's not necessarily from here, from Luxembourg, but it's oh so close. And if you want the latest updates for eNASCAR, not just here in the International Series, but the Contender Series, Road to Pro, and of course the NASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series, just scan this QR code right here. Sign up today for the iRacing and NASCAR newsletter. Get all your information for everything going on in the world of eNASCAR. Of course, a lot going on. Like last Sunday, we had a live event at the ADAC Sim Racing Expo in Nuremberg, Germany, that the Canadian Traden Lapcevich was actually racing at, and right now with an opportunity to extend his points lead as he tries to take home a championship here in international competition. Kenneth, the keys, though, to go out and win at this very difficult track.
I think keys number 1, avoid mistakes. Many times at road courses, especially ones that don't have a lot of runoff, you can see single car mistakes take over and change the complexion of the event. So if you're a driver on track, make sure you keep all 4 wheels on the racing surface and make sure you can avoid all those mistakes. It's a 30-lap race. It doesn't seem that long at first glance, but it is a while once you actually start doing it and start winning this car around Circuit Zolder. Second thing I also want to point out, corner exit speed, especially in that second sector. There are a lot of very slow exit corners once you get out of those chicanes, and you really have to make sure you plant the throttle, keep the traction in these rear tires of the car. It doesn't really have that much downforce to help you on that front, so make sure corner exit is a priority, and that could be the victory, the keys to victory here at Circuit Zolder tonight.
All of these drivers are part of real-world Worldwide NASCAR Series. It is the semifinal in the virtual world. The Frenchman, Paul Giuffreau, to lead us to the green flag. The D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series, powered by Digital Motorsports, coming down to the clutch. Who will take home the title? It's our final road course start at Circuit Zolder. Three wide for P2. They're going to duck out of it just a little bit though, because goodness gracious, they were three wide into one. Vargas got a little bit sideways. Everybody playing everything that they can into this short sprint race here at Circuit Zolder.
And it's also so tough in this opening lap, these opening corners, that you really want to carry a lot of momentum through, Devin. It's so tough to really single file yourselves out, and for a lot of them, it was a little bit of a struggle. Fortunately, everybody's all single by the time we get to the first chicane here at Circuit Zolder. This is turn 5 on the track. You're riding on board with Paul Giuffreau trying to pull away from the field. Elisa Dosso already diving on the brakes, looking for second. Will back out by the second chicane on Jojo Maggi in the 8 machine. And also did want to mention there, like you said, Ryan Vargas went sideways, got tapped by Jake Cosio, and Cosio gets into contact with Luli de Castello, the 24 and the 51, sideways and around. Our first proper incident, lap number 1.
And that's a major issue for Cosio, who comes into this race in 3rd place in points, just 1 point behind Victor Morales Jr., Kenneth.
You'll see here, this is just behind Ryan Vargas, Luli de Castello on the inside, that pink car. And it is so tough, Devin, to make space at a narrow chicane. And you see many of those here at Circuit Zolder, and you see they just both inevitably make contact. And de Castello goes around. Cosio is able to keep going. Luckily for both, I think they escape with minor damage, so it shouldn't really affect them too much, but they've already dropped significantly in track position. They're lining up the rear of the field, 14th and 15th right now, and that's really going to matter, Devin, and the fact that there are no cautions here at these road courses. You really have to make up a lot of your positions via strategy, so that's going to hurt them dearly, racking up the rear of the field at this point.
On board with Ulysses Delso, finished 7th place and 4th place in the 2 races in the Belgian GP right here back in October in the real world NASCAR Euro Wheeling Series. So these guys all have, at least in the Wheeling Series, a lot of experience at this track. In fact, you already see with the banners on the windshield, 4 of those red banners inside the top 6. Giuffreau, Maggi, Del Sol, and Lambert all have a lot of experience racing on this very track because, well, they got to race here twice a year if you're going to run the full-time Euro Series.
And that's true, and that obviously helps with just memorizing how this track is and the type of turns you're going to expect, the braking markers, all of that stuff as you ride on board with Neil Lambert, currently in P6, trying to work on the Canadian. Train Lapsevich, your points leader and championship holder, as he will go into the top 5. Looks like Lambert going to go hard on the brakes and will go sideways in front of Lapsevich. Is going to be able to save it, keep away from more contact, and just a little too eager there on the brakes, and the car cannot keep up with the pace that Lambert was trying to maintain there. Gordon Barnes is going to go around, a little slight mistake, but back to the point that you had made, Devin, about those Euro NASCAR Series drivers. Again, top 3 at the end of the race last season here at this very track. Locked up top 3 all Euro NASCAR talent. And a lot of these guys that you're seeing at the front of the field have ran this race in last season's edition. Elisa Dosso was in P6 at the end of that race. Paul Giuffreau was in the top 3 behind Simon Pilot, and your eventual winner by 24.5 seconds over Alon Day in the 21 machine, Victor Barrajas Jr., who's had experience in this series as well. There's a lot of these guys here that have been a part of that last Circuit Zolder race, and I think that definitely helps them as you ride on board with that 39.
Morales, the winner at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, to open up the season and put himself in prime position to chase this championship point series. He's trying to hunt down JP Bergeron. Meanwhile, on board with Alex de Alba, the NASCAR Mexico Challenge Series driver, one of the only 2 non-Europeans inside the top 6 right now. He's on the hunt for Ulysses Del Sol. Of course, we talked about him being able to finish 4th and 7th earlier this year, but in fact, Ulysses Del Sol has won here multiple times in the real world at Circuit Zolder. He actually swept the Euro NASCAR 2 races back in 2015. If you will, I know it's not a direct comparison, but in Euro NASCAR, they have their premier Euro NASCAR Series. Then they have Euro NASCAR 2. Kind of like the NASCAR Xfinity Series here in America. It's more so just that stepping block to get yourself up to that primary Euro NASCAR Series. But nonetheless, It's kind of like saying in the Xfinity Series, oh, I swept Darlington. Del Sol in the past has swept in Euro NASCAR 2 right here at Zolder.
And that's dangerous as well. You think about the real life accomplishments and you see how a lot of that could transfer into the sim. Be like, okay, we may have to watch for Del Sol. And Del Sol has a lot of pace. That last lap through a 137.6, that is faster than your race leader and a hair slower than second place Giorgio Maggi in the 8 machine. So Lisa Del Sol carrying that real life experience into the sim as he catches up to that 8 machine. He has Alex de Alba and Train Lapsevich running up the top 5 right behind. But I also want to point out, Devin, a great quartet we're watching from 10th on back, starting with the UK driver Gordon Barnes in the 148, leading a group with the 46, Miguel Gomez, the 3, Frederic Gabillon, and Ryan Vargas in the 23. They have been inseparable for the past couple of laps, and they have performed outstandingly against each other. You run on board with Gabillon in the number 3 machine out of the Euro NASCAR series, and Gabillon really working the wheel and to start from 13th tonight and up to P12.
And just in front of him in that yellow and green machine, the 42-year-old Portuguese driver, Miguel Gomez, not really satisfied with his real-world racing starts here at Circuit Zolder this year. A DNF in race 1 and a 12th place finish in Euro 2 in his 2 races. But the 42-year-old, who is the first ever full-time Portuguese driver in Euro NASCAR, hoping to bring it into the sim world here. If you take a look at him on board inside of the real world, inside of his cockpit, trying to get himself a good finish here. And this battle for 10th right now is really heating up, but it's also allowing some of the drivers ahead of them to pull out away.
And it also, again, prioritizes what I said was one of the keys to victory, avoiding mistakes. You're in this group with so many other drivers. The last thing you want to do, Devin, is make a mistake where you go off course, you slide in the grass, you hit the wall, you hit a barrier, something goes wrong for you, and then all of a sudden, you're not just losing one spot on the track, you're losing maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, just depending on all the cars around you in close proximity. So have to keep that in mind. Try to avoid chasing other cars around the track and getting yourself into a very tough position. Here's on board, Devin, with our last race's winner, Ryan Vargas, who I love the video, Devin, by the way, that he posted on Twitter of his reaction on stream. Just utter shock, but utter happiness as he came out in front at a turn 2, was able to grab that win in his very first start, and here running 13th behind this main group of cars we've been talking about.
He really made a miraculous move that I did not think was going to work. He went all by his lonesome in a 3rd lane on the top at Daytona to make the move and take the win from outside the top 5. And so he had himself quite a race in his very first start in the eNASCAR International Series. Now having to fight on a road course, had some internet issues earlier on, did not get to put down a qualifying lap. So right now he is murked in the back of the field. Meanwhile, back up front, this is a guy who we have really seen race well, both on the ovals last season, on the road courses this year. Paul Giuffreau has been absolutely fantastic. He's now accumulated a 3-second lead over Giorgio Maggi.
He has been blazing quick, and I think the fact that from last season's race, he doesn't have a guy like Simon Pyatt, doesn't have a guy like Alan Day to fight against him, or even like a Tobias Downhauer, a driver that we saw be very strong last time we were here at Circuit Zolder. Now that those drivers are not in the series, they're not competing right now, he's got free reign to do whatever he wants at a track that he probably thought last season he could get the win if it weren't for Pyatt and Day being so quick. So Giuffreau taking this opportunity and running away with it. And also think about it as well. Last time we were at a road course was Canadian Tire. How close was Giuffreau to the race win? Probably a bumper or so. Made that last corner ditch effort to get ahead of Lapsevich, couldn't do it. Giuffreau is so quick at the road courses, and he's showing it right now.
Still looking for that win, the 18-year-old Frenchman who was a rookie this year in Euro NASCAR 2, another driver who did not have the most luck in Euro NASCAR 2, a 13th place finish in a DNF back in October here at Circuit Zolder. Meanwhile, still on board and taking a look at the cockpit of Ulysses Del Sol. And of course, when you have all these drivers that have experience here, they've also raced against each other in real life at this racetrack, whether it be Euro NASCAR 2 or the Premier Euro NASCAR Series. So you got to wonder if when these guys jump into the sim, if they already have a conscious idea of, I know how this guy races at this track, I know how this guy races at this track, and it really brings such a unique opportunity for these European Series drivers as Maggi gets wicked loose. That's going to open the door for Del Sol. The Mexican Series driver cannot get around, though De Alba gets the door shut on him.
That's a good point you make there, Devin, about the real-life competition versus racing each other in the sim. I think it only amplifies that relationship and the camaraderie of racers and just how fierce of competitors they can be. It doesn't matter whether they're physically next to each other out on track, whether they're virtually next to each other on track. They're going to give all that they can. and they're going to try to make sure they're going to get the best of the other. And Maggi, I think, making the biggest mistake we've seen out of him all race long, going sideways, coming out of the chicane, just opened that door for Del Sol, and I think Del Sol was going to knock on the door anyway. It was just Maggi making that mistake going sideways. But Alex de Alba putting a lot of pressure here on these two drivers inside the top 3, so maybe we could see that Euro NASCAR trio get destroyed, at least, or get broken up with the Mexico Series with Alex de Alba.
De Alba, a victor this season in the NASCAR Challenge Series in Mexico. Again, that's kind of the equivalent of the American Xfinity Series and also kind of the Euro NASCAR 2 Series, except the Challenge Series actually runs on track with the Premier NASCAR Mexico Series. But De Alba is no stranger to victory lane as Maggi kind of gets into the dirt there. De Alba, the 2017 and actually 2017 Truck Series champion, which saw a tweet earlier this week. Landon Huffman, well-known late model driver here in America, just learned this week that there's a Truck Series in Mexico. Yes, that is correct. Alex de Alba, champion in 2017, a runner-up in 2018, and a 5-time career winner at just 25 years old in the NASCAR Mexico Challenge Series.
Yeah, very strong driver out of San Luis Potosi, Mexico, and you run on Borba Lapsevich, who's trailing just behind this trio of cars, 2nd through 4th. And Alex de Alba looking to punch into the Euro NASCAR dominance that we're seeing right now over the first 7 laps. It looks like he may get the best of Maggi here. It felt like the 8 machine, Devin, has really struggled with the rear tires. And again, it goes back to the point I made about having grip and making sure corner exit is important behind the wheel. You've got a lot of slow corners, most notably in that second sector, a lot of chicanes, a lot of parts of the track.
Trouble Gomez. He just slid the tires exactly like you were talking about, Kenneth, and he's going to lose a handful of positions here.
And that's Jake Cosio, the 51, to go around him. And that was right in front of Gordon Barnes on the 148. By the way, Devin, that was the battle we were talking about around the top 10, top 11. And I mentioned the fact that you did not want to make a mistake when you were in the midst of a large group of cars, because you lose 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. And that's exactly what Gomez did. Just a slight mistake, hopping too hard on the brakes. I think might have been a case of wheel hop there, something we really haven't mentioned with these Xfinity Series cars, something you can very well do hard on the brakes. The 46 just loses control. Fortunately, avoids any damage, but just has the damage in track position, P14.
And Barnes just kind of slithered out of danger there. He had the right line already clocked in and was able to avoid any damage there. How about one of the Americans on board with Justin Campbell? There's a number of drivers with the Drive for Diversity here inside of this eNASCAR International Series. And Campbell, just a 16-year-old out of Griffin, Georgia, started racing Bandoleros back in 2016, and now an opportunity to race against, say, these Europeans on their home track. Of course, a lot of Americans do so much oval racing, they don't necessarily have the road racing experience to begin with, and then you got to take on these ringers at their home track in the virtual world. There's a lot you can learn here.
It surely is intimidating, but like you said, a big learning experience as the 21 goes sideways off of the corner that looked to be, I think, turn 4. Going into the chicane. Or actually, no, not turn 4. It seemed to be another part of the track. I believe that might have been turn 8. Coming into turn 9. And Campbell there just goes sideways. I think that's going to close in the gap between himself and 9th place Neil Lambert. But there is already some good things to know about Justin Campbell in the 21. He finished P12 last time we were here last season at Circuit Zolder. He's already up from 11th to P8 on the track. So I'd say that's definitely a learning curve and definitely one that Campbell is enjoying right now as he tries to run all by himself and just tries to race the track more than the other drivers.
Campbell was lurking late 1 week ago at Daytona, was able to slide a top 5 out of this. Giorgio Maggi, though, this car is an absolute gremlin right now. The rear tires came out from under the car again. He's now fallen to the 5th position and has allowed the Mexican and Canadian driver to invade the top 3.
And, you know, this reminds me, Devin, about coming out of Moss Corner at Canadian Tire. It's such a slow part of the track. You're partially in first gear, second gear, and when you jump up the revs, those rear tires start to spin, and that car could easily get wicked sideways, and there's nothing you can do but just lay off the throttle and hope that your corrections on the wheel is going to help get that car planted back straight. It feels like that's happening to Maggi at almost every single part of this track. We're seeing all of these chicanes, this 8 machine sliding in different ways, hitting the curbs, and just making sure the car can be straight. And Maggi definitely struggling on the rear tires, which again turns back to our point about strategy. We may see pit road stops in a couple of laps as we cross to lap number 9, maybe around halfway at lap 15. So Maggi, maybe like a couple of others, will be begging and pleading for those fresh tires for sure.
And tires are only going to get worse as the event continues on because, like you talked about, this really hot track surface, it's actually dwindled down to just 102 degrees Fahrenheit. But that also means that when you slide out the tires like Maji has, the tires get warmer and warmer. And once you have a big slide like that, you can't cool those tires back down. So it almost turns into racing on ice because your tires are so hot. There's no returning from that. You have to go in and get new tires or deal with the consequences like we saw Jufro and Lapsevich do at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, going 30 laps without a fresh set of tires. So they were able to do it. I don't think anyone's going to try to go the full length here as, boy, oh boy, Campbell just kissed the wall. And right now he's trying to hold off Neo Lambert and had just a shower of sparks there coming down the front straightaway.
And remember, we saw that slight mistake out of turn 8 by Campbell. It brought in Lambert, and it looks like the tires on the 21s machine is not holding up as much. It looks like Lambert will have the opportunity to strike. And you're right, you make a great point about the fact that once you get those tires warm, once you have big slides, it is so hard to get back to a place where you have a solid amount of grip and where you're not kicking that rear end out at almost every part of the racetrack. And then you have a trade-off, whether to slow yourself down, lose time, but keep the tires on the race car, or try to still be fast, push as much as you can while having that car be sideways and deal with the physicality of keeping that car collected and not into the grass or into the wall or anywhere else or into other cars, and just avoiding losing time. It's just a big problem that happens, especially with these cars that don't have a lot of downforce. You rely a lot on the grip on those Goodyear Eagles, so you really have to make sure you're as careful with those tires as you can be as you ride on board here with Miguel Gomez, who did have a mistake earlier on in the race. He's still P14, but he is hunting down on the 51 machine of Jake Cosio.
And Cosio right now in full damage control mode as he has a little bit of brake lockup. Because he came into tonight 3rd overall in the points series. He was very much still alive in this championship if he could catch up to Traden Lapsevich. But now that gap is really going to expand. He was 10 points behind your leader, Lapsevich, as Barnes is trying to hound the rear bumper of the 23 car. Vargas has made a couple of moves. He's now passed Gordon Barnes and Frederick Gabillon, so he continues to move forward as he's just kind of mired in the back part of this field, and he gets tagged by Barnes.
On around he'll go. The 148 goes around as well. Extra spots for the 51 and the 48, or rather the 46. And the 148 goes sideways. It looks like they're still going to try and collect themselves. The 23 trying to grab what he can back to P10. But just some contact entering turn 1. A better exit out of the final corner, turn 10 for Gordon Barnes. And the 23 just cuts down on the brakes. There's no space. They both make contact and merge together. I don't think it's going to get any worse than that. They don't make any more contact, so no more damage. But again, just a problem, the lost track position, and that's really going to hurt them heading into pit road strategy for sure.
Well, Jake Cosio is more than happy with what was going on there as Vargas now fights with Miguel Gomez for that 11th position on track, and that car in front of them is Jake Cosio. He has now rounded himself up to the 10th position. Came in tonight 3rd place in points. 2nd place in points is Victor Barales Jr. He rides in the 6th position currently. Kind of in no man's land. Maji's 3 seconds in front of him. Bergeron is 4 seconds behind him. And JP Bergeron came into tonight's race 4th overall in points, about 7 points behind Cosio. So there's a chance that Bergeron could catch up to Cosio and take over that bronze position in this championship hunt. But of course, everyone right now chasing Traden Lapsevich, the Canadian Series driver, who has just been oh so consistent week in and week out, riding along in that 4th position, trying to hunt down Paul Jufro and Ulysses Del Sol and the Mexican Alex de Alba. Right now, the only non-European on the provisional podium.
And to think about the championship battle, it was 9 points separating Victor Barales and Traden Lapsevich going into this race from Zolder. There's a total of, what now, 15 cars on the racetrack. So Barales, who's running in P6, Lapsevich is running in P4. It looks like the amount of cars and the amount of points that can be spread between the field is not going to help Barales' case. He would have needed to have more cars or had a problem with Lapsevich. We know that Lapsevich had some connection issues just before we got the green flag here from Zolder. So maybe Barales was hoping that Lapsevich could not make this race and make the championship a little more competitive for him. But pit stops are underway. We just saw one of the drivers come in for service. That was Ryan Vargas. We also saw Frederick Gabillon in the 3 machine, Devin, also come in about a lap earlier.
Yeah, Vargas and Cosio on pit road, both of them also likely taking their lone faster pair. 11 laps down in this race, still 19 laps to go, so a little bit early if you want to have that fresh tire later on. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to be on gas. I don't think they really need 2 stops on gas. Obviously, we saw them at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park go without pitting and having no refuel on fuel, so they were able to go the distance. I don't think that you want to have to pit twice here to change those tires, as poor as they might be at the end of a run. You want to one-stop this race, and that halfway point is coming oh so close.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think 2 stops is going to be in the minds of any of the drivers right now, unless it's an unscheduled stop or unless it's to get a fast repair, as JP Bergeron has come in for service in the number 7 machine. He's in P7 right now. Looks like Campbell will not come in, so he'll take that position away. Same deal for Lambert, so it looks like Philippe Bergeron will fall back to P9, and there he is in that black Ford Mustang coming in for service this time through. But it looks like one stop is going to be the general consensus out of the field. I remember watching last season's race from Zolder. Your race leader at the time, who was Alan Day in the 21, had dominated that last half of the race, and he pitted with 15 laps to go. Lap 15, the exact halfway mark. Didn't have to worry about fuel. It was just about keeping the tires cool, making sure you don't wear them all too much and have your competition catch up to you grip-wise. So fuel, not necessarily a concern. It looks like one stop is going to be safe, as Lambert has a fantastic exit to the corner, and we'll look for Campbell heading for the chicane in the braking zone.
The European trying to take the American to school, and you see just how hard these drivers jump up on those curbs on the inside of those S's, and the few of them that we have on this racetrack on board with Justin Campbell and the Drive for Diversity driver. He's really working that wheel too, even in the straight parts of the corners, trying to get the best sort of entry he can. Woo, slipping and sliding behind him too. These guys are really fighting on these old tires.
You can tell they're in that part of the last sector, most notably turn 8 and heading for turn 9. A lot of fast sectors where you're just having little kinks and you have to keep the throttle planted. Those cars really step out, and then you slow things down right here, try to get the throttle planted back in heading out of turn 9. And this little kink here, turn 10, and then for turn 11, which should be the final chicane before you get to the start-finish line, it looks like Victor Barjales Jr. has stepped for pit road, the 21 and the 40. Not going to come in this time by, and there is second place in the point standings. Victor Barjales in for his first and potentially final stop this evening.
Hoping to do what he can to get himself out front. He is a NASCAR iRacing champion, that coming during the pandemic when the NASCAR Mexico Series came and made an iRacing league. He was the champion of that series back in 2020. Has himself at just 24 years old, 29 career top 10s in the Mexico Challenge Series, including 1 win this season to go along with 6 top 10s and 3 top 5s. Finished 8th in points. I think he probably wants a little bit more with just how consistent he's been in the past in the Challenge Series, but still has plenty of time to make some more work. Another one of the Mexican drivers, we talked about Alex de Alba quite a bit, continues to close the gap here on Ulises Del Sol, not allowing that white 10 machine to really get out of his grasp, because there's so many drivers in no man's land. Just having that target in front of you to chase can mean so much to the mindset of a race car driver.
And it also changes the approach for pit road strategy as well. When you're all by yourself, Devin, on the track, you have no one around you, you can kind of just float into your own strategy, you do whatever you please. But when you have competition around you, as Alex de Alba locks up the brakes heading out of turn 9, and that's really going to hurt his case against Del Sol in the battle for P2. When you have drivers around you in close proximity, it changes the way you think about pitting. Whether you want to go for the undercut or the overcut, looks like the 14 heading straight for pit road coming out of turn 11, that final chicane. So it looks like Alex de Alba coming in by his lonesome, not joined by anyone else in the top 5.
The 25-year-old hits pit road. That will relinquish a podium position here to Trayden Lapsevich. So he will continue to try to catch up to Ulises Del Sol, but everybody right now just doing whatever they can to catch Paul Giuffreau, who has been absolutely electric on road courses time and time again in this international series. The lead nearly eclipsing 10 seconds over Del Sol. We saw just how good he was at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and now that he is on his home turf, he is really showing out how good he is on these road courses.
It just reminds me of Alan Day from last season, just straight up dominance. As soon as they take the lead, it looked like they never looked back, and it looks like that despite everyone else second on back trying to do all that they can catch up, they just have no match. And Giuffreau, the young driver who will look for what will be his first ever eNASCAR International iRacing Series victory. He's been close so many times. Remember, Canadian Tire by just a couple of car lengths to Lapsevich. In that last corner, tried something, it did not work. We've seen at some of the ovals where he's performed pretty well. We've seen some highlights out of him, but Giuffreau, I think, in the best possible position. And as you cross for lap 15, I think we may see your leader, Devin, coming for service. Everybody's already starting to bite the bullet. I figure we'll see Elisa Dosso and Lapsevich also come in as well, but it may be off the signal of your race leader. We'll see as they come into the final corner. It looks like Jufro is going to hop on the brakes and will stay out an extra lap.
The 18-year-old Frenchman not deciding to come at the immediate halfway point of this race, another event that he almost found victory lane at, the Daytona Road Course 1 season ago. So I think probably once Lapsevich was able to find victory lane, he was kind of the next guy in line to be, hey, I haven't won in this series yet, but I am one of the best in this series, probably next in line to become that first-time winner. Pit road getting busy here, Kenneth. Del Sol, Lapsevich, Maggi, all hitting pit road.
And this is the most amount of drivers, Devin, we see in a batch of cars coming in for services. Here's the battle developing for what is going to be P5 and maybe inside the top 3, at least for the moment. Justin Campbell, Neil Lambert still going at it. They've been neck and neck since they've gotten close to each other. But Del Sol, Lapsevich, Maggi all in for stops. And I figured that Jufro was going to be the first one to go in and have everybody else follow suit. But it looks like 33 is just going to try to extend his lead as much as he can by staying out that extra lap and might come in this time through. Now, does that change anything for Del Sol, Maggi, and Lapsevich on their approach to the race leader? Who knows? But there's Jufro right there coming out of the chicane. This looks to be the exit of turn number 8, I believe, heading for turn 9. So we should see at number 33 maybe in a pit road this time with 15 laps to go.
Well, with the sheer lead that Jufro had on the field, he really didn't have a lot of pressure to be forced to be that first guy on pit road. So kind of the thought process here, I think, Kenneth, is the fact that he wants the freshest tires as late as possible. He's not having to force anything. He's not being pressured by anyone. So he's been able to not really just put a beating on those rear tires like we've seen other drivers do. So on to pit road for Paul Jufro, I believe potentially the last driver as he drifts onto pit road entry. That's just that speed that he's been carrying all race. He's going to carry it onto the pit road entry as well. And hey, if Lambert and Campbell don't hit pit road, maybe they can go and lead a lap here in Belgium.
And maybe they can, and it's going to be a desperate fight for who wants to lead that lap if they don't come in. It looks like Campbell might deal the bumper to the 40 machine. Could not do it. Exit of turn 9. And yeah, it's a straight exit into pit road, but it's a little chicane you have to hit before you officially get to that pit straight and pit road. We'll see what the 40 does. It looks like he's going to hop on the brakes. Campbell's going to try to come in, I believe, and did not hit the brakes at all and almost slammed into Lambert's machine. They both luckily escaped disaster, but Campbell comes in for service, lap 17.
Lambert will actually go across the line. I don't think as the leader, though, unfortunately. Jufro is actually off of pit road, too, so not too far behind Lambert, unable to lead that lap. But Campbell, I think, was either expecting them to both enter pit road or at the very least was underestimating all just how fast they enter pit road going into that corner. And like you said, crisis averted, luckily, for those two, because that could have been much worse, especially for Campbell, as he was able to save that 21 machine. And for Jufro, gonna make quick work here, the 40, with those fresh tires on there.
And you're right, Devin. I think not having that pressure to come down pit road and just having the freshest tires out of everybody, hitting the latest, was the right call as he goes into the chicane here and easily gets by the 40 for the race lead. Because look at where Elisa Dosso, Lapsevich, and Maggi are right now. 5th, 6th, and 7th. Who do they have to get by? Victor Barrales in the 39, Alex de Alba in the 14, and that aforementioned number 40 of Lambert in the middle of traffic. So that undercut, while maybe it gave them fresh tires for maybe an extra lap or so, it is not helping them in terms of track position. And what that's only doing is growing that gap and making the route to the front much harder for guys like Dosso as you ride on board with the 10.
But how about this pit sequence as well for Alex de Alba, who's going to cycle his way up to second in the running position. And this is impressive too, because really for the first time in a while, when the camera's on Jufro, there's actually a car behind him. The 14 is within 5 seconds. When this pit cycle started, Jufro was about a 10-second lead as Lambert gets wicked sideways entering turn 1. And De Alba wants to put the bumper there saying, hey, I gotta go. I'm battling for potentially the win. Man, De Alba's gonna lose about 4 seconds on that exchange right there.
Again, that's what I said. Going through traffic is going to make the route to Jufro a lot harder, and it's already up 5.3 seconds. And it's going to close a little bit here as they enter turns 1 and turns 2, but just that little incident with Lambert is going to make things tougher, and even then, so it's going to be worse for guys like Dosso, Lapsevich, and Maggi, who, if they want to catch up to Victor Barrales Jr., who, by the way, only has roughly 2 or so lap older tires than this main trio that all came in at the same time, it's just going to lose them more time at a track that really have a lot of chicanes. You don't want to go side by side through them for the most part. Look at on board with the 39. Looks like Doso might peek the nose to the inside in the braking zone. We'll go for it. But we'll back out. Exactly what I said. Losing time right there in those instances, those narrow corners where you can't make passes complete. It's going to hurt Doso and company.
And Del Sol has the experience at this track to know when is the door closed, when can I make a move, when should I not be making that move for a pass. Now they're going to get caught behind the 40 car in that much older tire. Been 2 or 3 laps since Justin Campbell has pitted in that 40 car. Only going to get more and more ice skaty here as Barales will go around the right side. Del Sol will follow as well. And Del Sol, we talked about earlier, this is someone who finished top 10 in both the eNASCAR 2 races in Belgium this year in those GPs. Experienced driver here and also one who has been very talented as well. And you can see here with Neo just how quickly they're able to blast away on newer tires.
And you'll see this at the end of the chicane. Looks like Del Sol going in for P3 on Victor Barales. Him and Lambert go off the track coming out of turn 11. The final chicane. There goes Lapsevich away for P4. Jojo Maju would take the spot away from Neil Lambert. And like I said, getting around traffic, the toughest part to get back to your leader, Paul Dufresne. That mistake, gonna lose more time.
And Barales does not love seeing Lapsevich behind him. Barales doing what he can to make up a 9-point deficit right now in the championship. At this point, every spot is worth a point, so he is only a 1-point gain on Trayton Lapsevich with that 20 car lurking in the rearview mirror.
And this is the storyline we've been trying to talk about, that 39 and the 20 machine and how close they are, especially with the lack of cars 15 that we've had in tonight's race from Zolder. It doesn't help Barales' case to officially grab away the points lead. But Barales is going to do all that he can to keep Lapsevich in that rearview mirror because he knows there's a championship battle at stake. He doesn't care if Dufresne gets to victory lane by 6 seconds or 1,000 seconds. He doesn't care if he gets to victory lane because it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Going into Darlington, you want to give yourself the best shot. And also as well, Lapsevich is good at the ovals, Barales is too. So you have to think about that as well, setting up on this road course race where these guys haven't been as competitive or as well here at this track compared to some others at Zolder, but this is just going to be the best setup for Darlington in that last race.
And the 3 Europeans that we continue to bring up, Maggi, Del Sol, and Dufresne, all tied for the 6th position right now in this International Series points. So they're only about 13 points behind Jake Cosio, who's in damage control mode right now. So there's a chance that they can all gain some really meaningful positions to get themselves onto the podium in this overall International Series. So some very meaningful laps here with just 11 circuits to go around Circuit Zolder, and Trayton Lapsevich with an opportunity potentially to burst himself into this podium. He can catch up to Barales Jr. and extend his points lead. We saw Lapsevich in the real world 1 year ago as the NASCAR Pinty Series Rookie of the Year, pick up 4 poles, 5 top 5s, finished 5th in points, and then broke through this year. A pair of wins, 7 top 5s, an average finish of 8th, and a 4th place finish in the points. He kind of did the same so far with this International Series, won the final race last year at Phoenix, and now has been the dominant force here in this year's series in the Winter 2022 set. Now trying to get himself a firm points lead before we head to the Lady in Black at Darlington in 7 days' time.
Yeah, you're right. It has felt like a breakout season for the Canadian. Ever since Phoenix and that win in early 2022, felt like you had to watch the number 20 of Lapsevich going into season number 3. And he put up such great performances at the ovals, and then a Canadian Tire just dominated that race all the way to the end. Even at Daytona, had some bright spots and was in potential to maybe win that race in the middle of the pack. Unfortunately, could not get around the likes of Ryan Vargas and company, but Lapsevich was there at the end of the race. He kept himself clean throughout those laps in what was a very testy race in Daytona Beach, Florida. So Lapsevich, really has been one of the best drivers we've seen in this series as young as he is, and he's going to make a mistake there heading into the final chicane and almost about with the car around completely, kept it straight, but just nabbed the grass and loses the spot to Del Sol.
Well, we knew that 10 car was going to be fast with just how much he was burning up those tires in that opening stint. He has a lot of speed, and of course another one of the European drivers with experience here. Talked about him having 2 top 10s in the Belgium GP in 2022. On top of that, he was in the premier Euro NASCAR Pro Series 1 year ago, picked up 4 top 10s. This year, though, he was a part of Euro NASCAR 2, that step right below the Pro Series, finished 5th in points, and instead of 4 top 10s like last year in Pro, picked up 9 top 10s in the Euro NASCAR 2 series, so able to get some more experience, and of course having 2 races at this track in the real world can pay dividends, as now after passing the Canadian, he's putting a lot of pressure here on the Mexican driver.
And I think he may have forced that 39 into a mistake, hopped over the curves, and that's going to lose him a bit of time. I think they will even now. It's going up the hill. Ready for the final 10 laps. So Solo is knocking on the door. There's going to be an opportunity that opens up for the 10 at some point, whether that's forcing the 39 into a mistake or just forcing his way through the door by his own sake. And Del Sol, like you said, so much real-world experience is carrying over into the sim. He's been so fast, and let's say if it weren't for Dufresne, we may have seen a talk about Del Sol being the most dominant driver. Here he comes to the inside. This is turn 9. Probably the best opportunity without a chicane. It looks like he makes a bit of contact. He forces his way through, and Lapcevich looking for the inside on the second-place driver in the points.
Top 2 in points go door to door, and Lapcevich will take over the 4th position, and that will give him a potential 10-point lead going into Darlington next week if he can hold on to it. This also puts a second European onto the provisional podium. They need a little bit of work, though, out of Giorgio Maggi and that red and white machine to make a few moves if they want to sweep the podium like they did 1 season ago here.
The thing that helps guys like Lapcevich is that Maggi has 2 lap pressure tires and Barrales. Same deal that Lapcevich and Del Sol have, because they all pitted at the same time. So it looks like Barrales may be under more fire. Here's a look on board from Giorgio Maggi and the number 8 machine out of the Whelen Euro Series will make it, I believe, 3 out of the top 5, Devin, to be inside the Whelen Euro NASCAR camp at the end of this race. And Maggi looking at hound on the 39, but just can't quite do it. And that's going to add more points to Lapcevich's game by the time they get to Darlington. So that means Lapcevich can go into Darlington without having to worry all too much. Again, still 8.5 laps left. There's still a lot to be decided, and Barrales is coming back on Lapcevich, and here he comes to the outside for P4.
The young Mexican and Canadian dueling here in Belgium in the eNASCAR International Series. Can't quite get a grip, though, and find his way around Lapcevich, and they continue to go bumper for bumper. And boy, Giorgio Maggi has himself quite a show. Needs some popcorn in that cockpit.
And if you're that number 8 machine, do you wait to make a move and settle between these two, or do you just go for it all by yourself? That's a really big debate that he might be making behind the wheel, just because these guys have been going so hard at it into the final 8 laps, and that has helped Del Sol, because he's pulled away by about almost 2 seconds to Lapcevich's machine. Del Sol now rounding up the top 3, so I think he's in good spirits here going into the final laps. But Barrales, though, trying to do everything that he can to keep with that Canadian and your points leader, so we can try and minimize that gap heading to the final race.
And how about this group of 4 here? Del Sol, 25 years old, the oldest of this group of 4. Then you have Maggi and Barrales. They're both 24-year-olds. And then the 17-year-old Canadian Lapcevich. So a lot of youngsters hanging around right here. They're trying to chase down the 25-year-old Mexican Alex de Alba. And no one has had an answer for one of the youngest in the series. 18-year-old Frenchman Paul Giuffreau has now ballooned his lead beyond 10 seconds, looking to make it 3 weeks in a row that someone from the country of origin that we're racing at finds the checkered flag as well.
And this is also a very big rebound, Devin, from what happened at Daytona just over a week ago. He finished in P11. He had a shot at the front many times in the closing stages of the race, but just got caught up in a crash. Remember the big one we saw in the middle of 3 and 4, and it basically took Giuffreau out of the mix. He was the second to last driver on the lead lap of that race at the World Center of Racing. And after losing out by just a hair at Canadian Tire, I think this is the proper response for the young Frenchman, and just going to show, I think, if we get into other series, the seasons of the eNASCAR International iRacing Series, that Giuffreau may be a driver to watch for, as he would catch the last 7 or so laps here from Circuit Zolder, and we continue to watch this battle for 4th, and potentially what may be the most pivotal move in the championship between the 20 and the 39.
We all know Barrales needs this, has a little bit of speed down the straightaway, not going to be enough to challenge for that overtake, though. This is the top 2 in points before we head to the championship event at Darlington, South Carolina in 1 week's time. You had, of course, Barrales winning at Las Vegas in the season opener. Lapcevich winning the next week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and has ballooned his lead to 9 points coming into tonight. If he can just beat Barrales by 1 position, that would mean that he has a 10-point margin over the driver of that 39 machine, and that could earn him a championship in this D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series powered by Digital Motorsports. And it could also make him on a very illustrious group of international champions in this series, such as Alain Day 1 season ago.
And also Simon Pilot in the 3-race stretch for season number 1 to become the 3rd different champion. And unfortunately, we haven't seen much of Simon Pilot or Alain Day in this season at all. You could imagine what they could have done with this competition had they been in it, but it's just opened the door for guys like Lapsevich, for guys like Barrales, for Dosso, De Alba, even Jufro, your race leader right now, to show what they've got, win some races, and put themselves in these positions. And it looks like Barrales just continues to stay on that rear bumper, and I have to imagine, what lap to go margin does Barrales look to make a move, or does he try anything right now to put more pressure, make that 20 make a mistake?
And when we talked to Ryan Vargas post-race last week, because I'd seen the tweets, he wanted to be part of this. He was adamant about joining this series right here, and so we got to ask him about that after the win. And his answer was, quite frankly, really simple. It's what you would expect, just how unique this series is. Taking real-world NASCAR stock car drivers from around the world and put them into one place where they can compete with one another on a high level like this. Against, like back in previous seasons, Simon Pilot, Alain Day, and then of course now 4-time NASCAR Mexico Series champion, who I assume is not here today because he just won a championship on Sunday. Ruben Garcia Jr. has played a part in this season of racing too, so you get to race not just these international legends, some of the best in their respective divisions of stock car racing around the world, but we get to see this 24-year-old Mexican trying to make his way in the NASCAR Mexico Series, going blow for 5 straight races against a rising tide in the Canadian Series with Trey Lapsevich at just 17 years old. It's so uniquely incredible to see these kinds of talented drivers going wheel to wheel in a track in virtual Belgium.
And when you think about the NASCAR world, when you think about NASCAR in the United States, as big as it is, NASCAR in Europe with the Euro NASCAR Series, NASCAR Mexico Series, NASCAR Pinty Series, what's going to be the NASCAR Brazil Series, which was announced not too long ago, not often do you see those worlds collide. You usually just see them in their own separate ranks. They're all under the NASCAR umbrella, of course, but you don't see those drivers in the International Series interact with a lot of drivers from the American Series, or vice versa, or with the Canadian Series, or what's going to be the Brazilian Series, or anything like that. This series, though, on iRacing virtually is that opportunity to have those worlds collide, to have these drivers from all different walks of life, all different types of countries, languages, ethnicities, you name it, types of racing styles. You bring them all together because they're all underneath this NASCAR umbrella, and you put them out on track and say, go out, compete against each other. It's a NASCAR family, after all, and I think it's fitting as NASCAR comes into its 75th anniversary for 2023. It's just so awesome to see how great NASCAR has been able to implement all this, especially with iRacing, and put the world's talent on the front, on the spotlight.
And at 75 years old, there's still so much new. Of course, the Cup Series here in America, racing at a stadium like the LA Coliseum for the first time for the Clash. Up in Canada for the Pinty Series, they got to race on dirt for the very first time. And the next first will be in Europe as they get ready for the NASCAR Arctic Ice Race on March 4th and 6th. They're going to race on a frozen lake in Finland for a preseason exhibition race that I'm sure some of just the racing people, guys who just love to race in Canada, Mexico, America, wherever it is, they love to race a stock car on ice, right? I mean, that's something where maybe in the future you have this cross-pollination of race car drivers across stock car racing in the world go to race with one another. And then next year will be the very next new, when we have, like you were alluding to, the NASCAR Brazil Sprint Race. So much new after 75 years of NASCAR racing. And here we are in iRacing, seeing some of the best across the international stage going head-to-head. And looking for his first ever win in this series, Paul Jufro makes it just 4 laps to go, hoping to add his name to a list like Simon Pilot, like Alain Day, Lapsevich, Barrales, Vargas, Carruth, hoping to become the next in line at just 18 years old.
It would be the 9th different driver to get to victory lane in this series. And obviously, I believe, the 7th different driver to have at least 1 win. There's only 2 drivers that have more than 1. One of them is Lapsevich, the other Alain Day, who picked up 3 from last season. And that would be a great list to join if you're Jufro in that 33, who again, it will have the last 3.5 laps to make the perfect laps complete and have this one all together. As you look at Gordon Barnes here with Neil Lambert. Remember, we saw Lambert on the oldest tires of the field. He pitted 6 laps ago, so finally things broke through, and he said, all right, I need to come in for tires or else I'm not going to survive. I believe he also ticked off the fast pair. Indeed, he did. So a fresh race car here for the 40, and he'll try to work on Barnes. It should be an easy battle to overcome if you're Lambert, and this would be for the entrance inside the top 10.
Yeah, it's kind of big here. And then, of course, you also have Ryan Vargas here a lap down. I don't know if they're going to catch him or not, but this could be meaningful. Try to use him as a pick, or just we've seen how much difficulty there has been trying to move past cars in traffic. But, yeah, trying to pick up a top 10 here at Circuit Zolder, a pair of European drivers going at it right now between Barnes and Lambert.
I think here we may see the fresh tires on the 40 take over the 148. These faster parts of the track, most notably turns 1, 2, and 3, where you're carrying a lot of speed. Obviously, you're still hopping on the brakes, don't have enough downforce to go in with a lot of throttle input, but it's really the fastest part of the track when you think about all the chicanes and everything that happens in that second sector. Lambert, though, does not take advantage of it, but going out of the chicane, looks like might have a better exit, going up to the gears, and still cannot find a way to get past that 148. So despite having the older tires, Barnes is putting up a defensive masterclass to stay in the top 10 right now.
The driver out of the UK doing whatever he can to keep Neo behind him. As they go through the S's, both of them get a little wicked sideways. Lambert's able to get to the inside here, and the 40 car trying to make the move.
And look at the
he
148.
gets wicked too.
He was pinching him in the corner. A great move there by Barnes to keep pace of the 40, and heading into turn 9, Lambert will have the inside lanes. He'll have the preferred way around, but Barnes is going to stay there door to door, heading for the final chicane, and they make contact.
Banging doors, having a good time here in Circuit Zolder, I guess. Trying to pull maybe a little bit of a draft. Barnes still continues to lead this battle for the final spot inside of the top 10. Coming to just 3 laps to go for this group. It will be 2 laps to go next time by for Jufro. Lambert's able to get a little piece on the inside here, going back down the front straightaway. Back into turn 1, though, Barnes is going to have the preferred lane.
And Barnes going to be defensive here, going to hold the inside just so Lambert doesn't have it. I think Lambert was going to back out there and try to make the crossover happen, just could not do it. Looking for that short way around in turn 2. What a battle this has been brewing up for the top 10. Gordon Barnes has been rather consistent all evening long. Hasn't been up at the very front. Has put up a lot of great laps and has been around a lot of great competition, putting up some great fights together. It looks like this may be just the last that'll take us all the way to the checkered flag. Lambert looking to keep that pressure up and force that 148 into a mistake. But if we turn our attention, Devin, back to that 33, heading for what's going to be the final lap or so for Jufro. It's been an unbelievable race. Just absolutely dominant, and he'll look to cap it off with his first ever eNASCAR International iRacing Series win.
He's been close on ovals, been close on road courses, and it took a home race potentially to get him into victory lane. Just over 1 more lap to go, and still Morales and Lapcevic are determined to not be separated. A mere 1 second separates the top 2 in points inside the top 5. Lapcevic and Morales still have a chance to go at each other again, but Lapcevic has really been able to spread that distance out. As he does have a lap car in front of him, though, now with Cosio in that 51 machine. Gonna have to find a way around a little bit of damage here on the Mexico Series driver.
You know, I imagine that the lap car there in Cosio would have played more of a factor into Morales' hands, that it would slow Lapcevic down and help that number 39 get back into it, but in fact, it's really done the opposite. It's kept that gap as stable as it could be as you watch the 7 and the 46. Also another battle on track for the lead lap. This is for P7, so much like we saw Gordon Barnes and Neil Lambert, they're still kind of going at it, by the way, for the entrance into the top 10. Gomez, who had made a mistake, spun around earlier in this race, now with the possibility to take P7 away from car number 7, heading for the chicane.
And we really have not talked much about JP Bergeron, who drifts it into the S's. Somehow does not whip that around. Might have got a time penalty, though, as Jufro's going to come across and get the white flag. And the NASCAR Pinty Series rookie was trying to hold on to that 7th position. He's been really consistent tonight. Just haven't really talked a lot about him. He falls to the 9th position as Justin Campbell will get around him for the 8th spot. And Gomez now sets sail, the Portuguese driver, now in P7.
And so that'll settle through. Unfortunately, we may not see those door-to-door battles to the end with Bergeron making that slight mistake and falling back to P9. Looks like Gordon Barnes and Neil Lambert have also calmed down, so things aren't really going to be crazy or contentious on that front. But what a race, again, by Paul Jufro. You have to give him props. And for the amount of times that we've seen him be consistent, the amount of times we've seen him put up some great laps, again, Canadian Tire just fell short of that against Train Lapswich, the hometown hero. It looks like in this hometown, at least as Europe is concerned, I think the Europeans are going to be so happy to have a European get back to victory lane for the second straight time with Zolder on the eNASCAR International iRacing Series schedule. We saw Lapsevich protect home turf out in Canada. We saw Ryan Vargas do it 1 week ago in Daytona as the most experienced real-world driver at that track. Now an opportunity, and this will also advance Paul Giuffreau pretty healthily in the points with an opportunity to get himself maybe inside a podium position when we go to Darlington in 1 week's time. But obviously that is going to be a very new experience for just about everyone in the series, except for maybe Ryan Vargas. Final quarter for Paul Giuffreau into turn number 10. He will become the 9th different winner in D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series history. The European protects home turf at Zolder. Paul Giuffreau wins in Belgium. Putting on a show for us too, how about that? The virtual fans are loving it. He's drifting all over the racetrack. There's Alex de Alba, by the way, who comes home in P2. And that's an underrated effort from Alex de Alba. We didn't talk about him all too much, but the driver out of the NASCAR Mexico Series is able to break up what might have been a Euro NASCAR domination. And then Elisa Dosseau rounding out the top three. You got to give a lot of credit to Dosseau as well, the French driver, as he actually burns it down. I think he categorizes this as a win. And that's definitely deserved on how well he performed. And Lapsevich is able to outlast Victor Barrales. And Devin, that's going to keep his lead stable heading into Darlington in that championship finale. And Paul Giuffreau is going to do a full, complete drifting course around the 2.5-mile circuit of Zolder here in Belgium. The NASCAR Euro Series driver takes the win at a NASCAR Euro Series track 3 weeks in a row. The home country and home continent heroes take home the victories on their home pitch. We'll step aside, bring it back, chat with your top three, and of course run down your final finishing order from Circuit Zolder. You are watching the D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series powered by Digital Motorsports here on iRacing.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
That's probably the first time that I've forgotten that I was on a simulator, and that was amazing.
It's so cool and so realistic and gives you the ultimate feel and the most realistic feel.
I loved the bumps. They really made me feel like, really realistic.
This is engaging all of your senses.
Welcome back to virtual Belgium, the home of the Belgium GP in the Euro NASCAR series here at Circuit Zolder. And it is a European who brings home the checkered flag to protect home turf here in the eNASCAR International iRacing Series. Just the 9th different winner all time here in this D-Boxing NASCAR International Series. Paul Jufro brings home the checkered flag, and it's the young Mexican Series driver Alex de Alba forces everybody else out of the way. We're not going to allow another Whelen Series sweep of the podium. The Mexican Series driver brings it home in P2. Ulysses Del Sol winds up in the 3rd position, so it's Euro Series drivers 1 and 3. The Canadian and points leader, Traden Lapsevich, will add on to his lead by a very slim margin as we go to Darlington next week with his 4th place finish. 2nd place in points, Victor Morales Jr. unable to outrun that 20 car in the closing laps. Morales rounds out the top 5. Giorgio Maggi is the next European in line with the 6th position. The Portuguese driver Miguel Gomez finishes in P7. And then how about the American Justin Campbell? Taking on these Europeans, he will finish in P8. Late mistake for JP Bergeron costs him some positions. He will have to settle for 9th. And Gordon Barnes, after some vicious battles, rounds out the top 10.
Jake Cosio in the 51 did not have the speed all night long and rebounds to P11, 1 lap down. Ryan Vargas also suffering some struggles late in the going. The 23 in his 2nd ever start in this series finishes P12. Neil Lambert was in a fantastic battle with Gordon Barnes to the entrance into the top 10. Nick Lambert had some connectivity issues near the end. He drops to 13th. Luli de Castello, number 24, comes home in P14. Frederic Gabillon in the number 3 machine rounds out the top 15, and it'll be Gil Linster in the number 56. Did not start, did not get to the green flag, and completes our full field from Circuit Zolder.
For the first time in D-Boxing NASCAR International Series history powered by Digital Motorsports, we have 4 different winners in a single season, and it's Paul Jufro taking home the victory. The 18-year-old Frenchman able to claim the checkered flag, protect home turf in Europe. But Paul, you were absolutely dominant in this race. What made the difference for you to outshine the rest of the field, including your fellow Europeans?
I think it's just that I wasn't on a battle with someone since the start. I think that the biggest gap was because the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st was overtaking each other, so they cannot destroy the tire. And I was just, thinking about to not destroy those rear tire, because with the set that we have is just too easy to destroy those rear tires. So it was the only things on my mind. It was to not drift, to just brake slowly, enter slowly, and just exit with no drift.
And I know in the real world, your races at Circuit Zolder, maybe not races that you want to remember, finishing 13th and having a DNF in Euro NASCAR 2 this season here, to be able to then go out and win in the sim racing world. What does that kind of mean, to kind of struggle in the real world and come here and show the rest of these drivers how to get around Circuit Zolder?
Yeah, my pace wasn't bad at Zolder in real life. Just I had a big crash on the first race, so we finished on the safety car. That's why I'm 13. And then on the second race, my engine broke because of the crash. So that's why. But my pace wasn't bad. I was fighting for the top 5. So yeah, I'm very happy, and it's my first win in this series. So it's just amazing. I've put a lot of work in the beginning of this series, and yeah, I have a win now.
Yeah, you came close in the ovals at times. I think I talked to you last year after the Daytona road course. You ran really well there. It felt like you were next in line to be that first-time winner, and you become the 9th different winner in Europe in international iRacing series history. What has it meant to you to be a part of this international series, racing some of the best from Europe, America, Canada, and Mexico?
It's just amazing, 2 years and a half ago, I was on karting. I was watching NASCAR at the TV, and yeah, this year I just made my first competition with the Rio NASCAR. I was on racing, and the year before I was just practicing with the championship. So it's just amazing to see that. Yeah, I can have the pace, but I have the pace on the simulator. Now I have to find the pace on the real life, but yeah, it's just amazing. It feels amazing.
The 18-year-old from France adds his name to the winners in the D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series powered by Digital Motorsports. Paul, congratulations. Best of luck in our finale in 1 week.
Thank you so much.
Paul Giuffreau, your victor here in Europe. And how about the driver that broke up what was potentially going to be another European podium? Alex de Alba, the Mexican Series driver, pulls off a P2. He's with Kenneth Bueno.
A great podium finish here for Alex de Alba out of the NASCAR Mexico Series. And Alex, you had a lot of speed, much like Paul Giuffreau, Lisa Del Sol, and a lot of others in this field. It felt like you were breaking up what was maybe going to be a Euro NASCAR domination here at Circuit Zolder. What came behind this miraculous speed on this Ford Mustang this evening?
Yeah, hello everyone. I think I didn't have great pace as Paul. He was lightning fast, but yeah, we had a great effort made by the car 14. It was just not blocking into the corners. You know, in these cars it's so easy to block the tires and start losing that pace. So we focus on this thing, and we also, I mean, I think the pit stop was great. We came out before them, so yeah, that was great, and we just had to hold off for the second half of the race.
And you, much like a couple of others in this race from Zolder, season number 3, you were also a part of last season's edition that happened at this very same track where you finished P8, obviously a way better result. P2 this time. Were there any things that you kind of carried over from that first race at Circuit Zolder, or did you come into this race with a blank slate?
No, yeah. This track in particular is so difficult for us Mexicans that are not like used to this type of tracks. We had to take it a little more easy than other tracks. So yeah, that was a pretty big part of this race, and yeah, training with Victor, Jake, and these guys has helped us to get a better pace than the year before. So now we are here at the podium.
Well, the practice certainly pays off. A P2 and a lot of speed behind this number 14 here from Circuit Zolder going into the final race of this season in the eNASCAR International iRacing Series, Darlington Raceway. Do you have any expectations or any motivations of what you're going to try to do to be fast there as well?
Yeah, need to practice that one. I haven't raced there since the update, so yeah, we'll need to get the guys going in that track, and yeah, hopefully we can finish the season in a high and get a win this year.
Well, for sure, a lot of momentum coming off of Circuit Zolder this evening. Alex, on behalf of our broadcast crew, I want to say congratulations on the podium. Wishing you the best of luck heading into Darlington, but celebrate here from Circuit Zolder, a fantastic finish.
Thank you, guys. Great job.
So Alex de Alba in the number 14 out of the NASCAR Mexico Series takes away P2 in his number 14 car. Devin, you're caught up with a driver who comes home in P3 and another driver with a lot of blistering pace here at this very track. Luisa Del Sol in the 10.
Yeah, Frenchman comes home in first, and then Euro NASCAR also represented in third place with another French driver, Ulysses Del Sol, taking home the third position here at Circuit Zolder. And we saw a lot of drivers having difficulties keeping those rear tires underneath the car. What did it take to stay consistent enough to be battling for that podium at the end of this race?
Thank you. First, congratulations for Paul for this victory, and Alex. In the first lap, I was make a mistake, and I lost a position, and I was fighting with Meiji, and after I was pit. One lap later, and Alex passed me, and congrats for him. And but after my pit stop, I was fighting with some drivers, and I keep the control and keep calm, and I was focused on my race and my technical and Zolders. It's a track when I was winning the title in Euro NASCAR 2 4 years ago, I like this track, and Formula One was here. It's special for me, and to finish on the top 3, to finish P3 in NASCAR, it's I'm very happy, and thanks for all the fun, and my friends and my team, and thank you very much.
And you actually swept these races here at Zolder in Euro NASCAR 2 back in 2015, and you allude to your Euro NASCAR 2 championship in 2018 when you had those 4 victories. And you said that this is special for you to be able to come and race at this track. We get some of the best drivers from around the world of NASCAR. What does it mean to get to be on this course and take some of those drivers to school, quite frankly, being able to have so many laps at this track in the real world?
I don't understand. Sorry, but
So kind of like, what does it mean to you to be able to have so many laps at this track and then race against these international drivers and kind of show them how experienced you are at this track?
Zolder was in. Sorry, I'm lost in my. Very sorry, but we have Zolder, we have many track like we have Valencia for MotoGP, and we have Branzach, and also Branzach Formula One was here in many years ago. This is a big history, and to ride on the track where Jim Clark or Fangio, Senna rode, it's very special, and for me and for all the drivers who know the story of motorsport.
And next week, going to Darlington, back on the ovals. What are your expectations going into that track in 7 days?
Oval track is very different for Euro NASCAR driver, for Euro driver, but we must to learn and to learn what we do in oval, and we must do me when I am in oval or a road track. I'm thinking about my technical in the race, and I'm stay focused, and I'm keep going.
Well, Ulysses, congratulations on the podium here at Circuit Zolder. Best of luck next week when we get to Darlington.
Okay, Darlington will be and it will be the final of the race of the championship. I hope to make a good result, and to make a good result in the championship.
Ulysses Del Sol, a third-place finish here at Circuit Zolder. Congrats, Ulysses.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the people.
So multiple drivers from Europe able to take the victory here in a podium spot. When we come to Circuit Zolder, our only race here in Europe, and now we head to the championship event, Ken, at the track that many of these drivers just don't have experience at, and experience is going to be key when you visit what is a monster racetrack, the Lady in Black, Darlington.
It's much like Daytona. When they were going into Daytona, they said we had to learn, we had to be smart, we had to make sure that we could avoid anything wild that would maybe approach us from left field or right field. Darlington is the same way. You're going to have to put in the practice laps if you're not a driver accustomed to racing at that type of oval, because it's not just a normal oval. Even to the Americans, you think about Las Vegas, Homestead, Kansas, a lot of the typical ovals that are, they're ovals, of course. You have to learn them if you're not accustomed to driving on that type of track. But it's not as intense as Darlington. Darlington really puts you to the physical and the mentality with everything. It really tests you as a driver. So it's going to be the utmost challenge for all of these guys to learn. And it's going to be so much fun to see them learn and be able to put that on the track as we're having a great championship battle between Lapsevich and Varales Brew.
Trey Lapsevich, the Canadian Series driver, looking to earn a championship. He has a 10-point lead right now over the Mexico Series driver, Victor Morales Jr., and it's all going to come down to that race at Darlington to decide the 2022 Winter D-Box eNASCAR International iRacing Series champion, powered by Digital Motorsports. 5 sprint races, and it all comes down to the dangerous 1-mile track at Darlington. A lot to learn before we get there. And of course, for all of you guys, we all know that you want this. We're coming down to the final 8 days to enter to win a Digital Motorsports NASCAR simulator outfitted with D-Box haptic technology. You get a playseat rig, racing seats and brackets, Phonetic direct drive base, Phonetic NASCAR wheel, Phonetic V3 pedals, a Phonetic shifter, floor stand mount, and a 49-inch Samsung curved television. And of course, the D-Box haptic system, the best motion system on the market with all electric motors. Anytime between now and December 21st, you can sign up at d-box.com/eNASCAR/contest and pick who you think will win this 2022 eNASCAR International iRacing Series Championship. Sign up for the D-Box newsletter, and that will enter you for a chance to win a Digital Motorsports NASCAR simulator outfitted with D-Box haptic technology. Of course, next week's our championship. The day afterwards, your last day to enter. And of course, right now, be sure to take advantage of the iRacing holiday sale. 50% off for all new memberships and 25% off of all renewals and reactivations for a 12-month or 24-month subscription. Take advantage between now and January 8th to get the best deal iRacing has to offer and get yourself on track here on iRacing. And be sure to join us, same bat channel, same bat time, 1 week's time, December 20th, 6 p.m. Eastern, as we crown a champion at Darlington Raceway of the eNASCAR International iRacing Series. For our partners at eNASCAR, for Drew Adamson, Sean Ambrose, Tyler Hudson, Cisco Scaramuza, Travis Tolenberger, and Corey Vervinch at iRacing, for Gary Sexton and John Theater at Podium Esports, our camera builder Dougie Beard, and for our crew on this afternoon's broadcast, producer Ryan Bauer, and my colleague in the booth, Kenneth Bueno, I am Devin Henry. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking out the broadcast here from Circuit Zolder. Congratulations to the Frenchman Paul Dufresne, taking home his first ever eNASCAR iRacing Series victory. We'll see you 1 week's time at Darlington. Have a great rest of your day.